This is Reality with Partiality. Today in studio, Dr. Betty Jean Usher Tate. Welcome to Reality with Partiality.
Thank you.
Like all other creatures, we human beings are born with a boundary setting reptilian brain, which we use for basic survival. However, in addition, given evolution, we have the cerebral cortex wherein lies the intellect. Our intellect despises boundaries, wants to grow and expand without limit. Therefore, from basic survival mode, we evolve and are privileged to work on our career ambition, and from there to expand that ambition into a vision. And ambition seeks what's best for the individual, you and yours. Our vision is just a larger ambition, wanting the same thing for everyone else that you already may have for yourself and yours. So, as people go from basic survival to ambition and from ambition to vision, they yearn for fulfillment. However, a person can never become fulfilled through his or her body and mind because the heart is only full until it encounters something or someone more appealing. And as for the mind, even if one crushes all the libraries and pounds them into his or her head, there will always remain something more for that individual to learn. So physically, we can become completely empty by dispossessing and abandoning, but we cannot become completely full. Fulfillment, therefore, for human beings is a lifelong process wherein they become full fledged and are only full fledged, assuming their mental acuity remains intact, whenever they are dead. It would be foolhardy to ask either a dog or a cat what it wants to be, because unlike human beings, animals are unable to make choices. They don't have freedom of choice. All they can do is become full-fledged either dog or full-fledged cat, which is what we human beings should also strive to be, full-fledged human beings. To become a full-fledged Belizean society, we must not keep tradition, but rather stand upon it, making it relevant for the next generation of young people to use and improve upon it. To become full-fledged, we must transcend the use of the reptilian brain, which a dog uses as it pees on every downlight post, singing I, me, establishing its P kingdom. We must instead use our intellect, which is our tool for exploration. The intellect wants to know, not believe. So if we anchor in a belief system, how can we set sail? Unless we set sail, how can we explore? Unless we explore, how can we know the nature of our own existence? So, Dr. Betty Jean, you are on your journey and here to tell us about your early childhood influences, the environment in which you grew up,
Mhm.
your career ambition, and in the event you already have a vision, to tell us all about it. Dr. Betty Jean Usher Tate, please take the microphone.
Okay. Well, Percy, first of all, I did not have a big sob story for growing up, and there was no rags to riches story.
Mhm.
What I stand on is pretty much tradition.
Okay.
Um, my childhood was one that was really blissful. Idyllic, if you want to say it that way. I
Mhm.
grew up in the country on an orchard, right in the middle of a citrus orchard at 6.5 miles on the Sand Creek Valley Road.
Okay.
I had two parents, three brothers, one sister, my grandparents who doted on me, the community that embraced me, um, neighbors who were very integral in my growing up. I had
Okay.
good time at school. I went to Holy Angels Primary School. I'll talk a little bit
Okay.
about that here too. So
Mm-hmm.
my childhood was one that was pretty much fairy tale to people these days.
Yes.
I spent 10 months of the year on the mainland of Belize and the
Okay.
next two out on the islands. My
Okay.
grandparents, when I was growing up, lived on Tobacco Key, and my family spent the whole summer out on Glover's Reef. And this was before the days of any kind of hotels or anything like that. We pretty much
Mm-hmm.
were living off the island and the bounties of the ocean. You had
Yeah.
candles and kerosene lanterns, etc. There wasn't any light switch. So we grew up in environments that were really healthy for kids and for building creativity.
Okay.
I pretty much remember some of my earliest memories was coming home from school from Infant One, where Mad Castillo was my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I was 4 years old when I went to Infant One, first grade. And she
Wow.
fought for me to actually be in there because I was a mouthy kid who liked to tell tall tales and have
Okay. Okay.
conversations with adults. And like I said, I was the youngest of the five kids, so she knew my older siblings and she fought for me to be accepted in school at 4, proved
Okay.
her right. And I would come home from school and go up in the big guava tree behind the house. And
Okay.
if my mom wanted to know how the school day went, she only had to listen because I was teaching the leaves and my dogs. And anybody who got in trouble at school that day, trust
Uh-huh.
me, I was broadcasting it on the guava tree.
Okay.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I I built a repertoire of um, community-based experiences also because of my parents.
Okay.
They were charter members in the Lions Club when that
Yes.
started down there. When I
Yes.
became of age, I joined the Leo's Club, which was that stood for
Mm-hmm.
Leadership Experience and Opportunity. And for a lot of us who were in that club, it
Yes.
really meant a lot and shaped us into becoming the kinds of leaders that we are today. We
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of community service. There were fundraisings, yes, but there was also activities where in the summer there were groups of eye doctors and students of optometry who would
Mm-hmm.
come to Stan Creek, and the Lions Club hosted them, and we took them over
Yes.
to different villages where folks who would never have had the opportunities to get their eyes checked, they
Yes.
got glasses out of that. And we were so integral in that we even learned how to run the visual acuity tests. So we would assist with
Okay.
the screening.
Okay.
Um, if you were ever part of Lions, you know that the conventions were also really important with there. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I enjoyed at the Lions conventions was the hospitality boats, and there were actually competitions among the clubs with how your hospitality boot was operating and what you were giving away and how friendly you were. Then there were cultural presentations that became competitions as well. Believe you me, Stan Creek knew how to represent.
Okay.
And I got
Let
it.
me.
Go ahead. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was there with the pioneer of yeah, of
Yes.
Leo Club, Malcolm Dale, who
Yep.
brought it into Belize, and the first Leo president, Wayne Wagner, and the secretary
Hmm.
Army Gable. So
Hmm.
I was there, but I never became a lion. But in the 70s,
I
I was there
Yeah.
with the Leo Club. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I did. And actually, when I became an adult, it was around that time that Lions decided to do away with the Lioness Club, and the women joined
Okay.
in on it. So, um, a
Okay.
little bit of the club evolution into um, gender appropriateness.
Okay. Yes, 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 yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Anyway, my experiences with lions and all those cultural presentations on stage, I would
Mhm.
say also helped along with my involvement with school plays to
Okay.
give me that level of comfort that I was able to get into real pageants in Belize. Pretty much in my youth, I was a tomboy during the day.
Ah,
I
ah.
mean, I could win those races that we had where we were climbing up coconut trees. So
Okay, okay.
I held my own with the boys. I had three brothers before me, so either
There
you
you
were
go.
part
There
of it
you
and
go.
you did it, or you were alone. And I'm not a loner, so.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and in the evenings, us little
Hmm.
girls would get together and we had our own pageants. So
Ah,
uh, in
okay.
1983,
Uh-huh.
just before I started high school,
Uh-huh.
um, I won Miss Youth Dangriga. That was the first major pageant that I got involved in. Then
Ah,
my senior year of high school, I entered the Miss Teen Belize pageant. And for
uh-huh.
that, there's a few people I gotta mention here. Miss Jeanette Austin, she was my English teacher, and she
Hmm.
picked this monologue from Dr. Colville Young, and then she had her friend,
Okay.
Dr. Billie Jean Young, help to
Hmm.
train me for delivery. Sister
Okay.
Claire was my chaperone for the competition because my parents at the same time were at a Lions convention in San Esteban. So
Okay. Okay. Okay.
the night of the pageant, they drove back from San Esteban to see the pageant. Miss Woodai had a busload of
Yeah.
people come from Ecumenical with our drums and so forth. And
Yes.
Sister Claire peered out through the from backstage and she was like, "Oh my goodness." And I was like, "What happened, sis?" She said,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
"One of the judges is Dr. Colville. You better not make a mistake or he will know. So you
Okay.
better do exactly what you were training on all along." So
Ah.
yeah,
Okay.
Dr. Young was one of the judges, and needless to say, I was the first Miss Teen Belize.
Oh, you won.
Um,
Okay. You
yes,
won.
I
Okay.
won. As far as pageants is concerned, because guess what? I was good at academics
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed the drama and theater type environment, thus getting into pageants. I was no athlete, trust me. If there was a team to be picked, I would be last from the list because I was not athletic at all. Anyway, as an adult in
Uh-huh.
1991, as a fresh 20-year-old coming back from studies, I entered the Miss Belize Queen of the Bay pageant.
You did?
I sure did. And for that, on the talent, I wrote that myself. The
I see.
dramatization that I did, I composed it myself. That was a fairly good experience that we had for that pageant. And of course, I was Miss Belize, Queen of the Bay, 1991, 92. So, Percy, if you
You
didn't know that
won?
yet,
You won?
yes, I won. I
Glory be
won
to
so
God.
well that I pretty much got every single prize there was to get.
Bruh. So you're a country champion.
Of course, and I did represent Belize internationally as well in Salvador, and I came back.
Okay.
Now, that was one of the toughest pageants I ever entered. It was in
Well,
Spanish,
well,
and
well. I
my
I sal-
Spanish wasn't good at that
I
time. So I
I
came home though with a prize. I
uh
won Mejor Traje Típico, which is your cultural costume, and for that,
uh
I am
Uh-huh.
proud to say that I designed it myself, and then
Yes,
I
yes.
had help from two other individuals. I had help from Dr. Henry Anderson to polish up on the design, and then my
Yes.
uncle Hubert, he was
Mhm.
the one that brought it to life with the we lit. I was the citrus darling, and I literally had oranges that he created out of foam, like the foam that you put in chairs and so forth. My uncle was a cabinet maker, so a
So you've
carpenter.
been
So he
you've
had
been under
materials.
you've been under national spotlight for a while then.
hmm
Okay.
Later, as Miss Belize, I also participated in a pageant in Querétaro, Mexico, and for that pageant, I came home with Miss Amity. So
Ah,
we
okay.
didn't win, but we did not come home empty-handed, and I won
Yeah.
as a person for the relationships and the experiences that I had.
Okay.
Anyway, my package in a nutshell is yes, there's beauty, but there's brain, there's talent, and there's
Behind.
character behind that beauty.
Yes, 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 yes,
So
yes, yes,
I
yes,
won't
yes.
stand on ceremony for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got into teaching in weird ways. I will say, first of all, a guava tree in the backyard was probably the best internship that I had. But apart from that, at ecumenical, when I um, completed ecumenical, I started the junior college there. One of the prizes from that Miss Teen Belize pageant was a scholarship for sixth form.
Okay.
I also had enough CXC passes that I got the tuition waiver as well for that. So
Mm-hmm.
academics got me through that competition, also got me into it. I did not finish ecumenical junior college. That year, when the Lions group had their students come down,
Uh-huh.
one of them had a good conversation with me about what pre-med was all about, and this girl decided I had an epiphany. Medicine was not it for me. I wasn't going to be that pediatric
Okay.
doctor
Okay.
anymore because I wasn't
Although
going to deal with
although
it.
although although you've done well in the sciences.
I did
Okay.
really well in the
Okay.
sciences, but that wasn't my route. I realized it, and today, to this day, I am so grateful for that conversation that that med student had with me.
Okay.
In my year there at the junior college, there was one of the teachers who was from Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
She had a family emergency and they had to fly her back quickly to Scotland. And so the high school was left in a lurch midstream to handle her courses. And she taught chemistry, she taught a bunch of other sciences and maths. At the time she was my calculus teacher at the junior college. Well,
Okay.
Mr. Flores called upon us, and I got to teach a chemistry class all on my own my first year in junior college.
Ah.
Of all my
Ah.
students, a notable one who was in that class is Dr. Karen Martinez. She was one of my chemistry students.
Okay. Okay. So that's how you
Okay,
got into the teaching.
well, from the guava tree to that, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yep. And then I came here to Nebraska actually, and I studied early childhood education at Southeast
Uh-huh.
Community College. One of the best educational experiences for a very young adult. I graduated high school at 16. Here in the US, you graduate high school at 18. So even though I had already spent a year in college in Belize, I was still in classes with people who were older than I was, more
Mm-hmm.
experienced in some things. And
Mm-hmm.
also, it was the first time that I was involved in classes that were not um, homogeneous. They weren't only with young kids. We had adults in those class, people who had kids, grandkids. It was my first experience into that kind of multi dimensional classrooms. So,
But you got
and
a degree. in early childhood, right? Early childhood
Yeah,
education.
an associate's degree there.
Okay, but you never
Mhm.
used it. You never used it.
I came straight back to Belize after that, and guess what? You would not believe it. I went to teach at ecumenical, and the things I learned for early childhood education, working with 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, worked perfectly with high school students. It's transferable skills.
Okay, 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 okay.
Same strategies, just a different perspective on them, and treating the person as a real human being with respect. It
Hmm.
works.
Okay.
It works. Anyway, so I taught at ecumenical. My first 2 years there, I was teaching geography.
Uh-huh.
I had
Uh-huh.
a great mentor in high school, Mr. Dennis Lopez.
Okay.
And when I came back, they were short and they invited me to apply for the position, and I did. And so I taught there for 2 years. It was in my beginning of the second year that I went for the Miss Belize Queen of the Bay pageant. So imagine after winning that pageant, where a lot of those students who were in my classes went to the pageant and saw me in swimsuit on the stage and all that, and then come back Monday morning and it's Miss Usher in front of you.
Hmm.
And my kids knew what kind of day it was going to be just from the expressions on my face. If it was going to be a serious day, no nonsense, we're getting work done, they could tell. They could also tell if we were coming in and that was going to be the day of stories or the day where they could prank or get away with other stuff. But when it was time for business, they knew it from the face. So my first day back as Miss Belize in there, that school marm face came on and it was business because I didn't want to have a discussion about the swimsuit.
So you it seemed like you enjoyed teaching too.
I sure did. I think teachers make
Ah,
um, a great impact in forming the nation. I think teachers are not recognized or credited enough for
okay.
how they shape the world. So a lot of times teachers are looked down upon as, oh, you're just a teacher. If you can't do something, then guess what? Go teach. That's so unfair to the profession. It's
Yes.
so unfair to the individuals who are not in the profession for the accolades, but for the fact that they are shaping the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And many teachers who taught me only had associate's degree. And many of my colleagues and folks in my age, we have doctoral degrees. So we made it further academically than those who taught us. And that's nothing to shy on, because I will tell you, one of the smartest women that I know was my grandmother, Winifred Jackson. That lady read books like you won't believe it. That's something that she imparted to me. That lady loves Scrabble, and she would be playing Scrabble with us. And in her older years, my grandfather would yell from the red bedroom, Winnie, you're going to play Scrabble with those kids, and they all have degrees, and you just have your 5 cents education? Because she didn't even make it to standard six. And she'd be like, leave me, Nolan. And guess what? She would whoop her butts.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
She would, because Scrabble is not only about knowing big words and how to use letters in a
Mm.
word, it's also about the strategy of where you place the letters. And she was smart.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
her little 2-letter words got way more points than what we did if you've ever played Scrabble.
No,
My
I've
grandma
never
know
played.
what XI meant. Anyway, so after I won Miss Belize, which, let me be fair here, the only reason I went into that pageant was because they were advertising a scholarship to the University College of Belize as a prize.
Fine. Fine. But
So I went
let
into
me
that
back you up.
pageant to win that pageant because I wanted to finance my bachelor's degree. And
Fine.
I did.
Fine. Understood. Understandable. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to back you up to this.
Back me up.
You know, um, when you do, whoever does whatever they do, for lack of a better term, like you have step, you go into it, without full intensity. Um, to me, that's an issue. Um, there are people who have that attitude when they come to the job. They don't work with full intensity, and it seems to be at least back here in Belize, it seems to be an issue with maybe what I don't know, almost half the population. There's not that resilience. There's not that putting your all into what you do. In my opinion.
It exists, Percy, but you know what? That has never been a part of my constitution. Even I'll tell you straight up, with the scholarship that I won for being Miss Belize, I went to UCB and I did not get the same kind of support
Mhm.
that the previous Miss Belize, Queen of the Bay, got in terms of it. Hers, they covered even textbooks and all of that. Mine, I got tuition only. And I had to move from Dangriga to Belize to be in that. And guess what? As a person who had considered herself an adult, you know what that meant? I got a job. So I went to school and I was working full time. And the person that I am is I wasn't given half to either. I gave my full self, I
There you go.
dedicated,
There
and
you
I
go.
did all that I needed to do to get through it. I worked with the Division of Department of Women Affairs. And
Mm.
so I
Oh,
traveled and I did like trainings and stuff in early childhood education because I was the development officer. So guess what? I did use that degree directly, not at first at ecumenical, but I
okay,
used that degree there. And
okay,
then
okay.
while at DWA, I got an opportunity then to move over to social department.
Hmm.
And I think we were called like the Department of Human Services. Um, and I was studying English, teaching English as to secondary school at UB. I got into that because that was what was available. They didn't have one for geography, which was what I was teaching at ecumenical, and something I really liked, especially the human aspect of geography. I loved it.
Okay.
But that wasn't there, so I took that. My dad told me, hey,
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
stepping stone into law. If you
Ah,
apply, I will fund your education for law.
he
Well,
loved law. He loved law.
two
Okay.
things came out of working with the Division of Human Services.
Uh-huh.
One, I realized I will never be on the front line, can't do psychology on the front line. I can't be a provider for that kind of service. Man, I had some tough cases, and one of them, we
Hmm.
had to remove the child from the home for really nasty reasons that I don't want to get into. And the
Hmm.
second one, I got a case where I had to take a kid to family court and help to defend, and I felt totally unprepared and inept for that kind of scenario. And
Okay.
it made me realize I didn't care how much my dad was willing to sponsor it. Law was not for me. Psychology or social service, not for me. So
Okay.
some of the experiences I've had, I did my best in them and I feel like I made positive impact, but there were also eye openers for me for the things that I know is not mine. Opportunities not to seek. And
Mm.
sometimes it's better to know what is not for you than what is for you because then you know the path not to go and you then become open to other experiences. So I
Fine.
went back to ecumenical and I taught there. When I got there, they were short of math teachers. You remember what I told you I was majoring in at UB? English.
Yes.
They were short in math department, and Mrs. Woodai, who also taught me math, which, by the way, that 1 year I spent at EJC, I majored in math, chemistry, and biology.
Okay.
Message to young people out there: there's no need to prove that yourself that you're smart and try to kill yourself with three majors in sixth form. It's not high school anymore. It's your first level of tertiary education. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. Anyway, so I taught math, and they
Mm-hmm.
gave me one single English class because I needed that for my internship, externship, whatever they call it these days,
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yes, yes.
English degree that I was getting. I did that. I taught study skills also. Then later on, I became the head of the English department for
Mm-hmm.
ecumenical.
Mm-hmm.
That experience also led me to realize that a lot of our Belizean youth speak English, yes. They understand English, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But producing in English is not necessarily comfortable for them. And the reason I believed at that time was English was not our first language, and we're teaching it as if though it's a first language. It's not. Let's get real. English is the official language in Belize, but it's not the first language for most of us. How many of our
Right.
Belizean kids grow up with parents speaking to you in English? That's on the way down low minority. You either
Yes.
grow up in a home where you would be speaking, and I'm now talking about where I come from down south, and where you're from, Percy. You have folks who are speaking Maya or Spanish or Garifuna and Creole, or
Creole, yeah.
there's even other languages involved
Mm-hmm.
because there's Asian students down there. There's students from
Yes,
other
yes.
ethnic groups.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
then their second language is truly, if Creole wasn't what was spoken at home, their second language becomes Creole because on every playground, that's what you typically hear. So
It's
English
true.
then is their third language for those who have experiences with other languages. And that is not something to shy away from, that is something to embrace. Code switching is a skill that's valuable in life. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that your brain managed multiple languages gave your brain more exercise and tenacity than those who are monolingual. You
Okay.
develop more brain cells because of that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I then took that as my impetus, and I went to Kentucky to Murray State University,
Mm-hmm.
um, where I earned a master's degree in teaching English as a second language.
Ah, so that's what you did. More English, more
That's
English.
mastered, yep. Yep. English is a
Ah,
second language, or
okay.
teaching English to speakers of other languages.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll tell you a little bit there. Um, the same month I got my acceptance letters for university,
Mm-hmm.
and I had secured funding to go. I also
Mm-hmm.
found out I was pregnant with my second child.
Okay.
That did not stop us.
I
And
hear
I
you.
say
I
us
hear you.
because it meant that my husband, my young son, and
Yes.
myself carrying the second child, we
Yes.
went to Kentucky and I studied.
As a
And
unit.
as a unit, in my
Yeah.
first semester, I delivered my daughter, and all I missed was 1 week of school. And then I was back
Mm-hmm.
in the classroom, didn't skip a beat with it. I never had to ask for extension. And I think that speaks also to the kind of upbringing and traditional values that I was raised with. You made
Well,
that decision to be in there, so you give your all. And we did it. As
it
a
speaks.
family, we did it.
It speaks to resilience.
It does. Fast forward, I
Mm-hmm.
taught at the University of Belize in the Regional Language Center. So there,
Oh,
I
you
was,
did? Okay.
yes, I was part of that cadre of teachers where we were responsible for helping young, and not always very young, um,
Mm-hmm.
young adults from other countries who would come to Belize for 1 year to learn English. It was part of a foreign affairs agreement that was in place at the time. And Of all my stories, I think this is one that would kind of encapsulate that experience the most. We had a pilot who came from Mexico. He was part of their Air Force. And when he got to
Hmm.
Belize, he could not even ask where is the bathroom.
In
Not, no
English.
good morning, nothing. That
No
dude
English.
only
Period.
knew Spanish.
Hmm.
And about 2 or 3 months into it, I had this course that I was so proud of. And today, that's one of my courses that I developed that I think was the most successful. And it was called Experience Belize. I taught
Ah.
on history of Belize in those classes. I shared with them so that they would know when you listen, yep, that's the Belize national anthem. Here's what the flag looked like. I took them to Dangriga when it was November for Garifuna Settlement Day celebrations. I took them out to the Keys. We went visiting the caves. It was through those experiences they were having to learn and use the English language. And
Hmm.
on one trip, we were on this bus from Monkey Bay,
Hmm.
and the pilot came up to me and he said, Miss Tate, this program is no good.
Really?
I looked at him. I said, yeah. Why do you think so? I
Ah.
come here. You do books. You come. Take me about. Tell me go to the market. This program is no good. I'm not learning no, I'm not learning enough English. And I let him
Ah.
rant on and on and on. And when it was done, I said, you know what, Piloto? Thank you for the best compliment of my professional career. Miss Tate, I know compliment. I criticize. And I said, yes, Piloto. And you did it in English.
Bob.
When you came here, you couldn't ask for a glass of water in English, and
Yeah,
now you're
yeah.
criticizing how we're teaching. Thank you.
Yes,
Nobody
very
could
good.
criticize around him anymore.
It's an accomplishment. Uh, we,
Right.
we we gotta move a little more quickly
Okay, no problem.
to the PhD business, if you will.
Okay. So
Uh,
I left UB and went to Dalil and I taught there. Well, mostly I was an administrator, but I did have a few sessions where I had to teach and realized that there were kids in that school who were really smart, but they had some learning disabilities. And I felt like the tests that were being used to determine who got to go into high school. Maybe we're not doing these students any justice. So I enrolled at the University of Nebraska Lincoln in a program called Quantitative, Qualitative, and Psychometric Analysis Methods. Sorry. And that's what I earned my PhD in. Um, I also, at the same time when I studied at UNL, I earned a minor in educational administration.
okay, 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 okay.
I had lots of accolades during that time, and if anybody
Ah,
wants, you can just Google me and you'll see
yes,
I
yes,
was
yes.
doing presentations and representing all
Okay.
over the world in with research that I had conducted, etc. I've had where I did presentations for the International Testing Commission in Amsterdam. I had presentations in Toronto, Canada, in um, Washington, D.C., in Houston, in San Antonio, in Chicago, in Denver. I had in one of those presentations in DC because I did present in DC multiple times. My research was shortlisted um, for grad students, so that was an honor. Um, I for my dissertation, I did first a pilot study with teachers in Stan Creek District, and then that pilot study got me to where I was able to propose the dissertation, and I did get an award from the university for the quality of that, and it allowed where they gave me a stipend that I was then able to use to conduct that study on a full scale. So essentially, it paid for the printing of the surveys that I created and disseminated. And I have to thank all the teachers in the Stan Creek district who participated in that survey because you had a hand or a foot or a thought, whichever way you want to look at me earning this PhD. In my last year, while I was still writing the dissertation, I no, the year before that, I interned with Lincoln Public Schools for their testing side of that office. And then my last year doing the dissertation, I got a job with the state of Nebraska, DHHS, which is your Department of Health and Human Services. That job was as a statistical analyst with the Division of Behavioral Health. And by the way, I'm dressed this way because right after this, I'm heading out to work. Um, And after I finished my dissertation, the opportunity came up that I was promoted to the data and QI administrator for the Division of Behavioral Health. I currently lead the biggest team in the division. I also oversee three data systems, two of which I am fully responsible for improvements or changes within those two systems. One is a financial system. The other is the centralized data system. Both systems hold very sensitive data um, for those who are served, anyone who receives services that are paid for by the Division of Behavioral Health. And for those of you who are not aware, behavioral health includes both folks receiving services for mental health and those receiving services for substance use disorders, or if they're co-occurring where they're receiving services in both areas. I'm also overseeing, but not in as integral anymore because now the system is established, a system called ECRA, which is the Electronic Commitments Records Application. For that, if somebody is deemed by any of the courts to be mentally defective, and they get a mental health board commitment, their information goes into that system and then it goes up to the feds. And essentially, what it does is if you are wanting to purchase firearms, your information is run in a system for the feds, and if you are flagged, then you are not able to get a license to purchase firearms. That is on the smaller side of what I do. I am most occupied with the system that holds the data for the community-based services and even some tribal services that the state of Nebraska uses. Um, I can't talk too much about that because that's a sensitive area. But yes, I love my job. I am glad that I found out when I was at Human Services in Belize that I am not supposed to be the psychologist taking care of the patient.
No,
But
no,
I
I
am
want.
glad it took me on this journey to where now I help people to make sure that they're getting access to services, but in a roundabout ways, because the reports and stuff that we are creating from the system that I manage and the team that I manage, that's how the state of Nebraska gets federal funding to be able to fund those services.
So you can analyze
Oh yeah, yes. My
individuals,
QQPM,
individuals and groups, their
their
behavior,
data. No, their data. I am not on the front end side
the
of
data.
it. Yeah, the data. I work with the data.
Ah,
I do not do assessments for individuals, for example, to see if they're schizophrenic or if they have any kind of mental health illness or no, I don't do that. I manage the systems. There's professionals who do that and they enter the demographic information, especially diagnosis, and there's
Okay.
about 60 fields that we track.
Okay.
So, and then we create reports. One of my favorite things with the work that I do is the data visualization so that we can tell the story behind the data. We humanize our data. We're able to break it down and presenting it in ways where folks who are data savvy can understand, and those who are not or who hate data, they just look at, oh, that's math. That they're also able to comprehend what we're trying to share. So,
Okay. You got this award from the governor, right? You're
yes,
an
I did.
admiral now, right? You're an admiral.
Imagine in Nebraska where it's totally landlocked.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that award, and I noticed that that was the picture that you posted for me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an award where you're nominated for it. It goes through a selection process. DHHS has more than 6,000 employees in Nebraska. I'm in one of the smaller divisions, behavioral health, Medicaid and long-term care. That's one of their bigger. Public health is also another one in there, or the division of disability and aging. Anyway, it goes through a process, and then in 2023, I was selected. The picture you see there is the governor of Nebraska presenting me with that award.
Ah. Well, let's have your closing remarks.
Okay, in closing, guess
Uh-huh.
what? I did all that stuff with English, with geography, with statistics and all that, but
Uh,
that's not the full picture of who Betty Jeannie is.
okay.
I'm also very much involved in the arts. While I was doing my PhD, I took 6 semesters of ceramics.
Uh-huh.
I've had shows where my work were on display and included in it as part of my own, I want to say, mental health, um, de-stressing. I resorted to using art when I was going through my doctoral program.
You had
I
a piece
paint.
right there. You had a piece right there on your desk.
Yes, this
Yeah.
is one, and this
Okay.
is one of the simplest ones that I've done.
Okay.
I even made a huge tree trunk with two toucans on it.
Mhm.
And in the middle of this tree trunk, it had like a Coke bottle and all that. And it was my thing on saving the environment and how mankind is getting there and putting trash, that the purest part of nature is getting destroyed by mankind. That was one of them. Anyway,
Okay.
I also, during COVID, I learned how to make soap. I got pretty good at that too.
Wow. Okay.
But I didn't market it or anything like that. So, Prissy, guess what? I still have a lot of soap downstairs. I had to quit doing it. I enjoyed making soap, but I had to stop. I was giving away a lot of soap and enjoying the process. Um, Maybe one of these days I'll come back to that. I also sew. And so, when the time comes for me to return to Belize and retire, I am definitely going to have a studio, and what that studio is going to look like depends on how agile my fingers are at that point in time. But it'll definitely be working on art and multimedia. So,
Multimedia, huh?
mhm,
Multimedia.
yeah.
Well, I also think that Belize as a whole could use your expertise with advising on behavioral health issues. But that's for you and the country to, work out, figure out. I hope
You know what's sad, Percy?
God
A
is.
lot of the times that phrase that we grew up hearing seemed to ring a loud bell for us, that the prophet is never recognized in their own home.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
true. I've had that kind of experience where I want to do a whole lot more with Belize, but let's
I know.
just say opportunities don't come or folks don't understand the value in the things that and experiences that I've had
Well,
for us to be able to apply it back home.
well,
There's
well.
That's
It's,
another story though, Percy.
but it's sad. No, it's sad because it also has to do with the crabantics, right? Um, and I'm hoping that we find ways, we find ways to expand the battlefield if it comes to that, because we are rich with talent at home and abroad. So I want to thank you for, sharing with us today so candidly, right? And I hope we can continue the dialogue. But most
Anytime, Percy.
is there anyone you want to say hi and bye to as we close?
You know, Percy, I'll just say if you know me and you're in Belize or you're anywhere in the world and you're watching this, thank you for being a part of the fabric that wove this person that is in front of you. I appreciate you and I'm grateful for whatever contributions you have made in my life, whether it be that you presented some challenges that I had to overcome or you were there as a support, or even just an individual that made a quiet impact on my life. Thank you very much. I'm not going to call out any more names because I'm going to get into serious trouble.
Yeah, I know. But give my regards to your family as well
Thank
as
you,
your
I
dad
will.
when you talk to him. He's my dentist, by the way, the original.
Yes, the original Gold Teeth Pro.
Have a good one.
You too. Take care, Percy. Thanks for having me.
Bye bye.